Hi guys, so I'm back with another video on financial management, and in this video I'm going to cover the third unit of financial management. So a brief introduction of mine before we start with the lecture. I'm Sandhya Rao, working as an assistant professor at St. Andrews Institute of Technology and Management, working in the BBA department. So today we'll talk about the different kinds of leverage that we have, which means financial leverage and combined leverage and operating leverage. So these three kinds of leverage we're going to talk about today, starting with the operating leverage. So mainly there are two types of leverage. One is operating leverage, the other one is financial leverage. So we'll start with operating leverage first. So, operating leverage basically tries to establish a relationship between two things, which is sales and operating income. Now, operating income is nothing but the income that is generated solely from the operations of the business. Okay, a business deals in many things, and there is one core business which is the main business of the company. Now, whatever revenue a company is generating from those operations or that business, that income is known as, or that revenue is known as operating income, and that is also known as earnings before interest and taxes. So this is one component when we talk about operating leverage. Second thing is sales. So in this entire operating leverage, we will be talking about these two things, sales and operating income, which means sales and EBIT. Okay. So now it basically tries to establish a relationship between these two things. And also there is one more component which plays a very important role in operating leverage, that is fixed operating cost. Now here, there is a difference between fixed expense and fixed operating cost. Now what is fixed operating cost? See, fixed operating cost is the cost that you incur in your business, okay, which is related to your operations, but that is not affected by the level of output, okay, which helps or which is necessary for the conduct of business, but it is not affected by the level of output. For example, depreciation, rent, insurance, interest payment to any creditor, or any utilities, for example, electricity bill which is being paid, telephone bill paid, all these things are example of utilities. So these all are fixed operating costs, which means that these are not affected by the level of output. If you're paying electricity bill, that has nothing to do with the number of quantity or the number of units that you're producing in any given period of time. Okay. Also, the insurance premium that you're paying has nothing to do with the level of output. Okay. Also, if you're paying any kind of interest to any of your creditor, then that also has no role to play in the amount of output that you are producing. Okay. Also, depreciation is just like that. Depreciation is not affected by the level of output. Okay. The quantity that you are producing is not getting affected by these costs. So these are fixed. Okay. The nature of such cost is fixed. You will have to incur these costs irrespective of the fact that you are generating enough revenues or not. Even if you are having a sales of, let's say, 20,000 units, the depreciation or the rent or the insurance will remain fixed. And even if you are generating, or you say producing only 10,000 units, then the depreciation, rent and insurance will remain fixed. So fixed operating costs are not affected by the level of output. Now next thing that you're going to talk about in operating leverage is contribution margin. Now what this contribution margin is? It is the contribution of sales in the operating profit. Okay. So this tries to establish a relationship between the sales and operating profit. It helps us to know that what exactly or what portion is being contributed by the sales, or how much portion of the profit belongs to the sales. That is known by the contribution margin. Okay, and how do we calculate this contribution margin? We simply deduct variable cost from the sale, and that is known as contribution margin. So I hope this fixed operating cost and contribution margin is clear to you guys. Now let's move to the formula of operating leverage. So operating leverage is contribution margin divided by earnings before interest and taxes. Then degree of operating leverage is percentage change in EBIT divided by percentage change in sales. Then contribution margin, as I have already told you, that is sales minus sales minus variable cost, and EBIT is contribution margin minus fixed operating costs. So let's do an example and it will become more clear to you. So we have to find the degree of operating leverage and the operating leverage as well. I'll just change it. We'll find out the operating leverage and not degree of operating leverage. So the sales is 100 million, variable cost is 48 million, and fixed cost is only 22 million. Now the sales is of second case is when the sales have been reduced to 50 million only, and the variable cost is also reduced to 24 million, and the fixed cost remains same, that is 22 million. Okay, so we'll see that how the operating leverage changes in respect of the change in sales. Okay, so when the sales was 100 million, the variable costs were 48 million. So we'll deduct it. See, whenever we want to find out profit, what do we exactly do? We deduct the expenses from the income, okay, or revenue. So here revenue is our sales, and whatever cost we are incurring, we'll deduct it from the revenue. Okay, so sales minus variable cost. So 100 minus 48 gives us 52, which is the contribution margin, which means that sales have contributed 52 million rupees to our actual operating profits. Okay, so this is the contribution of our sales. Next thing is we'll deduct fixed cost from it. So fixed cost is 22 million, and we'll subtract it from the contribution margin. So 52 million minus 22 million gives us 30 million, which is our earnings before interest and taxes, which means that this is the profit, and we haven't charged the interest on the debentures, or we haven't charged any tax on it as yet. Okay, so this is earnings before charging interest and before charging tax. So now EBIT is 30 million. Okay, fine. Now guys, if you could see that when the contribution margin is 52 million, we are having an operating profit of 30 million. Okay. Now in this case, the operating leverage is 1.733. How do we calculate the operating leverage? How do we calculate the operating leverage? I have already given you the formula. We divide contribution margin by the earnings before interest and taxes. So we'll apply the same formula here. So in the first case, contribution margin is 52 million. We'll divide it by EBIT. So 52 million divided by 30 million gives us 1.733. Okay, this is our operating leverage. Fine. In the next case, when the sales have reduced to 50 million only, and the variable cost is also reduced to 24 million only, in that case, contribution margin is only 26 million. And the fixed cost is 22 million because it's fixed already. Okay? So here, the EBIT is only 4 million. So see the difference that when there is a drop of almost 50% in the sales and variable cost, then the EBIT has fell drastically. Okay, and in that case the operating leverage has increased to 6.5. So what do we infer from this analysis? This basically tells us that when the contribution margin is very less, or you can say it is very close to the fixed cost, then the operating leverage will be very high. It means that the risk is very high. Okay, so even if there is a small dip in the let's say the sales, then there will be a drastic effect on the EBIT. So it tries to show that there is a very magnifying effect between these two things. Okay, even if there's a small dip in sales, then there will be a huge impact on the EBIT. Okay, so contribution margin should always be sufficient enough to cover all the fixed cost and should always give you a sufficient amount of EBIT so as to cover the other expenses also, because you have to charge the interest also, you have to charge tax also, you have to charge preference dividend also after this. So it should be sufficient. So operating leverage is very high when the contribution margin is very close to the fixed cost. Okay, and you can also do the analysis of you can say that what is the percentage change in EBIT versus what is the percentage change in sales, and you can calculate the degree of operating leverage in this case. Okay, so let's move to the next topic, that is financial leverage. So here, financial leverage is trying to establish a relationship between two things, that is EPS and EBIT. Okay. Um, so financial leverage tells us the extent to which fixed income security are used in the firm's capital structure. So यहाँ पे we are trying to focus on the point that how much debt is there in our total capital structure. Okay, and it measures how the fixed expenses, that is interest, affects the EPS. Okay, earlier in operating leverage our focus was on fixed operating cost, and here our focus is on fixed expense, or you can say fixed cost, that is interest. There's a difference between fixed cost and fixed operating cost. Okay, operating cost is related to operations, and here it is not related to our operations. Okay, it can be related to investment or any other activity, so it is not related to operations, so that is why it has been kept separate. So in financial leverage our focus is on the fixed cost. Fixed cost means the cost that we have to incur for raising debt. Okay, the interest payment that we have to make on the debentures. Okay, so that is one of the major component of financial leverage. So here two major things are there. One is EBIT, second is EPS. Okay, EPS means earnings per share and EBIT stands for earnings before interest and taxes. So here we'll get to know that how the debentures or debt in our capital structure affects the EPS. So before that, I'll explain you what exactly this EPS is. Okay, I'll help you. I'll explain it to you with the help of an example. So let's say XYZ company is having 2000 equity shares worth rupees 100 each. And there are 10% debentures valuing 10 lakhs and 10% preference shares valuing 5 lakh. Okay. And EBIT is of rupees 4 lakhs and the tax slab is 50%. So we have to calculate the EPS. All right. So three things that we have to understand from this question. There is equity, there is debenture, and there is preference shares. Okay, in the capital structure of this XYZ Limited, there are three kinds of capital. One is equity capital, then debt is there, then preference capital is also there. All right. So on debentures, we'll be paying interest, and on preference dividend, we'll be paying preference dividend. Okay, preference shares will be paying preference dividend. So we'll calculate the amount of interest and dividend now. All right. So on uh, we have 10% debentures of rupees 10 lakhs. Okay. So 10% of 10 lakh will be 1 lakh. That is our interest. And how much preference dividend do we have to pay? Our preference shares are worth rupees 5 lakh and the rate of dividend is fixed at 10%. So 10% of 5 lakh gives us 50,000 as preference dividend. Okay. So moving on to the next slide, this is the analysis which is being done so as to calculate the EPS. Okay. So first of all, we'll write down the EBIT, which is given to us. Now, since we all know EBIT is earnings before interest and taxes, which means we are yet to charge the interest and tax on it. Okay. So first of all, we'll charge interest and then we'll charge tax. So we'll subtract interest on debenture of rupees 1 lakh. Okay. Well, now the value after deducting the interest comes out to be 3 lakh, which is our earnings before taxes, EBT. So now we'll deduct tax from it. Now tax slab was 50%. So 50% of 3 lakh is 1,50,000. So we'll reduce it, and after charging the tax, we get EAT, which means earnings after tax. So earnings after tax is 1,50,000. Now, after charging interest and taxes, the amount that you are getting is supposed to be distributed as dividends among the equity shareholders and preference shareholders. And as I've already told you, that preference shareholders are always prioritized over the equity shareholders. So when we will be dividing dividends, we will give it first to the preference shareholders. Okay. So we'll reduce the preference dividend now. As we have already calculated, preference dividend is how much? 50,000. So we'll deduct the 50,000 from earnings after taxes. So 1,50,000 minus 50,000, we have got 1 lakh as our net profit, which means now we have already charged the interest also, the tax also, and the preference dividend also. So this 1 lakh is entirely meant for the dividend for the equity shareholders. Okay. We can divide it as dividends or we can retain it. Okay, that's totally up to us. Now we assume that we'll divide it as dividend only, or let's say this basically belongs to the equity shareholders. Okay, this is the earnings that they have got. Now the total number of equity shares was given as 2,000 in this question. All right. Now next thing is how to calculate EPS, which means earnings per share. So this is the earnings which is meant for the equity shareholders. The net profit is the earnings for shareholders. So 1 lakh divided by the number of equity shareholders gives us EPS. Okay. So 1 lakh divided by 2,000 gives us 50 as the EPS. So this 50 is our EPS. All right. Is this clear, guys? That how we calculate EPS? We do what we do is, first of all, write down the EBIT, deduct interest out of it, deduct tax out of it, and if there is any preference shares, then deduct preference dividend also. Okay, and after that you will get the net profit. From that net profit, you will have to divide it by the number of equity shares, and you will get the EPS. Okay. So now next is the formula for financial leverage. So financial leverage consists of two major things, EBIT and EPS. Okay. Now financial leverage formula is EBIT divided by EBT. So earnings before interest and taxes divided by earnings before taxes. And the degree of financial leverage is percentage change in EPS divided by percentage change in EBIT. And how do we calculate EBT? EBT is nothing but EBIT minus interest. And EPS is profit after tax minus preference dividend, if any, divided by number of equity shares. So let's do an example on this EPS and financial leverage. XYZ Limited has equity capital of rupees 5 lakh and the face value of one share is 100 rupees. Okay. Now the company wants to raise 3 lakh and is having 4 plans to raise the funds. Okay. The company wants to raise additional capital. The existing capital is only 5 lakh, which is from equity. Okay. Now how the company is going to raise this external or additional 3 lakh? So they have 4 cases. One, that they can raise this 3 lakhs from equity only. Second option is that they can raise 1 lakh from equity and 2 lakh from debentures. Third option is that they can raise the entire 3 lakh from debt, which means debenture. And fourth case is that they can issue 1 lakh equity shares and 2 lakh preference shares. Okay, so these are the 4 options available with the firm. And the EBIT for all the four cases is 1,50,000 and the tax rate is 30%. So we have to calculate the EPS and financial leverage. So the first thing that we are going to do is we will write down the capital structure in all the four cases. Okay. So in the case one, first of all, in the column one, I have written equity, whatever, what all kinds of capital do we have? Equity is there, then debt is there, and preference capital is there. Okay. So equity, I have written old plus new. Old is already 5 lakh, and the new equity, if issued any, will be written here. Okay. Then we have written debt capital, then the interest which is going to be paid on the debt, then preference share capital, and at last I have written the preference dividend, which will be given to the preference shareholders. So in case one, we have issued only equity. Okay, the entire new capital has been raised from equity. So existing equity was 5 lakh and the new equity is 3 lakh. So the total capital is 8 lakh now. And there is no debt, there is no preference capital. So it is 0, 0, 0 in the second column. Okay. Now in the third column, which is case 2, we have raised 1 lakh from equity and 2 lakh from the debentures. Okay. So you could see that 1 lakh is equity and the existing equity was 5 lakhs. So the total new equity capital is 6 lakhs now. And debt is 2 lakhs. So the interest is 10% on 2 lakhs, which is 20,000, and there is no preference capital and there is no preference dividend also. In case 3, which is in column 4, there is no equity, there is no preference capital, there is only debt. The entire amount has been raised through debt. So equity will be the same as old equity, which is 5 lakh. The debt is 3 lakhs now. The interest will be 10% on 3 lakh, which is 30,000. There is no preference capital, so it is 0. There is no preference dividend here. Okay, so that is also 0. In case 4, we have issued 1 lakh equity and 2 lakh from preference capital. So here equity will be 5 lakh, the existing one, and 1 lakh new capital. Okay, so it is 6 lakh now. Debt, there is no debt, so it's 0. Interest will be 0. Now here we have issued preference capital, so it is 2 lakh. And 8% is the rate of dividend. So 8% of 2 lakh is 16,000. So this is the preference dividend. So now moving on to the actual solution. So in case 1, the EBIT in all the four cases is same. It's 1,50,000 only. Okay. So let's do it one by one. In case 1, as I have already told you, there is no debenture, there is no interest, and there is no preference capital also. Okay. So here there is no interest. So first of all, we'll deduct interest from EBIT. Then we got the EBT. Okay. If you could see here, EBT is 1,50,000. Then we have deducted tax at the rate of 30% on this EBT. So 30% of 1,50,000 is 45,000. After deducting this 45,000 as tax from earnings before tax, we get a profit of 1,05,000. This is our profit after tax, or you can say earnings after tax. Okay. Now, what's the next step? We will deduct the preference dividend, if any. Since there is no preference dividend in this case, so we have deducted nothing. So here the net profit is same as profit after tax, which is 1,05,000. And the number of equity shares, if you could see here, the equity capital was how much? 8 lakhs. And each share is worth rupees 100. So how many equity shares are there? 8,000. So here the number of equity shares is 8,000. So we have calculated the EPS as 13.125. How do we calculate the EPS? We simply divide the net profit by number of equity shares. Similarly, we have done it from second case also, for third case also, and for fourth case also. In second case, we have interest because we have debenture. How much was the interest in the second case? It is 20,000. Okay, it is 20,000. So we have written it over here. After deducting interest of 20,000, we have got an earnings before tax as 1,30,000. On this, we have charged the tax at rupees at 30%, and it is 39,000. After deducting it, we have got profit after tax is 91,000. Since there is no preference capital in this case, so there is no preference dividend also. So the net profit is same as profit after tax. Number of equity shares, if you could see in second case, will be 6,000. Okay, because equity capital is 6 lakhs. EPS in this case is 15.1667. Now here in third case, the EPS is 16.8, and in fourth case, the EPS is 14.833. So if you could see, the highest or the maximum EPS is in case 3. And also the financial leverage is maximum in that case. It's 1.25. So what do we infer from this? And if we go back to the previous slide, what's the third case? The third case was when we were having total debt, when we have issued the entire new capital from debt. It means the firm is highly leveraged. Okay. Financial leverage is maximum in this case because 100% debt is there. Okay. The entire new capital was financed through debentures. So what's the significance of this? It means that when we are having debentures in our capital structure, it increases the earnings for our shareholders. It brings more earnings for the shareholders. How? See, when we have more debentures, the tax or the taxable income is reduced. Okay. If you could see, we are paying the least tax in case 3. Okay. Why? Because we are having interest payments here. So when we pay interest to our debenture holders, we reduce our taxable income. The taxable income is least here. It's 1,20,000 only. And when the taxable income is least, then obviously you will pay less tax also. So that is why it is always beneficial to have debt in your capital structure, because one, it gives you tax benefit. Second, it increases your earnings per share. Okay, it gives benefit to the equity shareholders. Okay, and also it's good for the company. So this is the benefit of having a financially leveraged firm, or you can say this is the benefit of financial leverage. Now, the next thing is combined leverage. Combined leverage is nothing but a multiplication or a product of operating leverage and financial leverage. And when we actually multiply these two things, see the formula here. When we multiply financial leverage and operating leverage, financial leverage is what? EBIT upon EBT, and operating leverage is contribution margin upon EBIT. So when we write down this formula, EBIT gets cancelled. So the combined leverage is equal to contribution margin upon earnings before taxes. So this combined leverage tries to establish a relationship between the EPS and sales. See, operating leverage was trying to establish a relationship between EBIT and sales, and financial leverage was establishing a relationship between EBIT and EPS. So EBIT gets cancelled and it becomes a relationship between EPS and sales directly. So this is combined leverage. Okay, where we want to know that how a change in sales affects the taxable income. Okay. So if the management feels that the certain percentage in sales would result in a percentage change in taxable income, they would like to know the level. Okay, that how much is it going to affect. So thus the degree of leverage is adopted to forecast the future study of sales level and the resultant increase or decrease in taxable income. Okay, so we just want to know that how much is my sales going to affect my taxable income, that is earnings before taxes, because combined leverage is equal to contribution margin upon EBT. Okay. So this is it. This is all about the leverage part, and simultaneously we also get to know about the EBIT and EPS analysis, although I'll be doing a separate illustration on that, but it's somewhat similar to what we do in financial leverage. Okay, we'll be having another lecture on that. So given the time constraint, I'll have to end this lecture. So let's quickly see the questions that you have to do. There is one question on operating leverage and the another one is on financial leverage. Okay. So there are two companies. Company A produced 30,000 bottles, and which cost them 2 rupees each, and company B produces 45,000 bottles at a price of 2.5 each. Now company A pays 20,000 as rent, which is fixed, and company B pays 35,000 as rent. So you have to calculate the operating leverage in this case. And in the second question, we are given sales as 100 million, variable cost is 40 million, and fixed cost is 40 million. Now the capital employed in the company is 80 million, and the debt equity ratio is 1:1, which means 50% equity, 50% debt. So 40 million equity and 40 million debt. Now the interest on debt is 10%. So we have to calculate the financial leverage on it. Okay. So this is it. Thank you guys.